Okay, this is the syllabus discussion for my CIT 161 Intro to Networks class for the regular semester that is 16 weeks for fall 2023. So I'm not going to read this word by word to you, but I'm going to go through and hit the high points. I am your instructor, Wayne Beach. You should see or find a instructor bio video on myself in the Blackboard course. I am an adjunct faculty at BCTC, so I do not have an office. The phone number listed here is my phone number at the University of Kentucky where I work during the day, and it does have voicemail associated with it. If you need to communicate with me, the preferred and quickest way to get a response is via email to me at my email address shown here, wayne.beach@kctcs.edu. And if we need to set up a Teams meeting to communicate that way, or a phone call, we can do that. Usually there are one, possibly two division coordinators because we're in transition this semester. There are actually three coordinators: Dana Brown, Ethan Coates, and Mike Harding. Their contact information is listed there. And our assistant dean is Lauren Campbell, and her information is listed there at the bottom of this page. Related to accommodations in the classroom, accommodations are not made directly with the instructor. They are made through the Student Accessibility Services Office. So if you believe you need an accommodation to be successful in the class, you talk to the people at the Student Accessibility Services Office, and if they determine an accommodation or possibly multiple accommodations need to be made, they will send me a formal document that identifies the student and tells me what accommodations I need to make for that student. The next section is just some websites that might be handy to you. You may have used a lot of these. The one thing I do want to point out is the MyPath website. If you go to MyPath, you'll get information related to being a student. If I go to MyPath, I get information related to being a staff member. When this came out several years ago, I didn't really think I would like it, but I really actually do use MyPath a lot and think it's a really handy tool. The next section is some official course information. I'm not going to read all this to you word by word, but there is the official course description from the course catalog, and also CIT 161, as you may already know, is a 4-credit hour class because that is considered to be 3 hours of classroom instruction plus 1 hour of lab time. So we will do a lot of labs, but they'll all be remote or on the NetLab or using Packet Tracer that we'll talk about in a moment. There's the prerequisites and co-requisites for this course. And then split across this page and the next page is the course competencies. Basically what the course competencies are if you participate in the class, you do your homework, you do well on the exams, and you pass the class, this is a list of things that you should be able to do and or describe to somebody else. As far as the classroom materials, that first paragraph is kind of boilerplate for everybody. For this course specifically, we will be using a piece of software called Packet Tracer. There is Packet Tracer for Windows, Mac OS, and Linux. So you need a machine that is capable of running one of those operating systems, or possibly a virtual machine that has one of these operating systems installed. Since this is 100% online class, we will be doing everything in Blackboard as far as assigning assignments, taking tests, submitting homework, etc. The one exception to that is you will have module group exams, which I'll talk about in a moment, that you take on an external website called netacad.com. You should have an email address by virtue of being a KCTCS student. You will need to check that regularly. As far as textbook, there is no required textbook. The reason for that is your course material, the curriculum, is going to be available via that website I mentioned a moment ago, netacad.com. However, if you do for some reason just prefer a printed textbook in general, or maybe you travel and fly a lot and it's more convenient to carry a book on a plane with you than to carry your laptop and get or pay for wireless, this is a physical copy of what Cisco calls a companion guide, and it is pretty much verbatim what is in netacad.com in a printed book. So if you prefer a printed book, there is information on how to obtain that. As far as attendance and participation, normally for regular class that would be showing up and participating in conversations, asking questions, etc. In an online class, this is going to be judged by logging into Blackboard regularly, checking your email regularly, and turning your assignments in on time. As far as the no-show attendance verification, years ago the policy was something like if the student does not attend one of the first 2 class meetings, that student can be dropped from the class as a no-show and removed from the roster. In the case of a 100% online class, we have to give you an attendance verification activity, and in my case that is reading the syllabus and then taking the homework 0 assignment in Blackboard, which is a 1-question test that asks you if you've read the syllabus and if you had any questions, did you get those addressed or email them to me. That assignment is due by August 22nd. If you do not complete that assignment by August 22nd, you can be removed from the class and will not be eligible to continue working in the course. You'll be removed from the Blackboard shell, and you will not be eligible to re-enroll in the course this semester. As far as email, I gave you my email address a moment ago. Any email you send in general should have a good, meaningful subject. For example, sending me something that says help is not very useful to me. It tells me nothing about who you are and what you need. But a good subject for this class might be something like CIT 161, problem with PKA 2.3.4. So that tells me you're in my 161 class. It tells me you're having trouble with the packet tracer assignment, in particular 2.3.4. I know when that's due. Is it due in a couple of hours? Is it due in a couple of days? And I can, if I'm looking to make sure I haven't missed anything related to my CIT 161 class, I can simply search my email for CIT 161 and find any outstanding emails I have related to the course. Okay, this came up a couple of semesters ago in a different course, so I added this to my syllabus. Most of the time my students are in the Eastern time zone, especially if it's an in-person class. But with this being an online class, I have students from all over Kentucky and occasionally have a student that resides in another state. So when I give due times, they're going to be in the Eastern time zone. So the assignments are usually due at the end of the day, which I specify as 11:59 p.m. so there can be no confusion between noon and midnight. So with them being due, if you're at Owensboro or Henderson or someplace in western Kentucky, your due time is going to be 10:59 Central Time. This academic integrity policy has changed for this semester. It has expanded to include some of the new AI tools that are out there. But a summary of this is, the work you turn in is expected to be done by you and solely you, not by somebody else, not with great assistance from somebody else, not with assistance from AI. So that's the academic integrity policy. The recorded class session does not apply. When COVID started, I tried to do like the syllabus introduction as a class, and having 20 to 40 students per class, it was hard to find a time, and people were like, I'll just watch the recording, and I'd only have 4 or 5 students online with me. So I just decided it's better to do what I'm doing right now, which is to voice over the syllabus. The next section on this page is related to the BCTC Equity and Unity Statement, which was endorsed by our Board of Directors in March of 2017. You can read that. This is something they had us add to our syllabus several years ago, and I actually think it's a really good thing. Basically, any type of assignment you have is listed here with a description of what it is. So anything that makes up a component of your grade needs to be outlined here. So these are the things that you will have. When I call something a homework, this is typically going to be an assignment that was created by me. In the Cisco curriculum, you have packet tracer activities that you will use a piece of software called Packet Tracer, which you will learn about very early on. There are things in the curriculum that are referred to as labs. Typically, in the old days, pre-COVID, these were things that you did in person on physical equipment in the classroom. But in online classes, I set these up or give these in a way that you can do them on either your personal machine at home, or sometimes it's doing research on the web. You will have module group exams. When I first started teaching Cisco 15 or so years ago, every what I would call chapter was called a module, and after every module you had an exam. So you'd have like 15 exams or quizzes. I was really annoyed that they called them modules. After I had taught for 5 or 6 years, they changed it to chapter, and you had chapter exams after each chapter. And when this new curriculum came out 2 or 3 years ago, they went back to modules, and instead of having an exam after every module, they have what they call module group exams, which will be quizzes over typically 2, 3, or 4 related modules within your textbook. These will be taken on that netacad.com website that I keep mentioning. And then as far as exams, these are what I would call more traditional exams. You will have a midterm and a final. The midterm will be made by me and administered in Blackboard. The final exam will be an exam that Cisco makes on netacad.com. So it will be administered, and both of these will be proctored through a piece of software called Respondus. So that's the next section, is about the Respondus software. 2 or 3 weeks prior to your midterm, I will give you an assignment on Respondus that requires you to download and install the Respondus browser, and then go through the process and take a simple 1 or 2 question test, not related to the material, just to get into Respondus, get into Blackboard, take the exam, just so you are familiar with the process. And like I said, that'll be assigned 2 or 3 weeks prior to your midterm exam, where you will actually be using it on a real exam. As far as your course grade, several years ago they started doing midterm grades. There's a link on how to access your grades, including your midterm exams. I'll give you the date here in a moment, but this grade will be placed in there at the approximately halfway point during the semester. As far as your final grade in the course, this is how it breaks down. Your module group exams and your practice final, the average of those will make up 40% of your grade. Your Cisco online multiple choice final will make up 20% of your grade. Skipping down to the bottom, your midterm exam will be 20% of your grade. And then finally, homeworks, labs, and packet tracer activities will all be averaged together, and that average makes up 20% of your grade. As far as grading scale, I use the traditional 90 to 100 as an A, 80 to 89 as a B, etc. In reality, what I do is once I calculate your final numeric grade, I plot them, and sometimes based on the grade distribution, there might be a slight, what you would consider a curve, like often 88 and up or maybe 89 and up as an A, just because there were a bunch of grades clustered there together in the high 80s and low 90s. So, but that'll be done at the very end. So there might be a slight curve, but this is the official breakdown of grade assignments. As far as makeup and late work, I give you a due date. I expect, barring any unforeseen extreme circumstances, that your homework will be turned in on time. If you have an extreme circumstance or something like I had a student this summer that had to go to National Guard duty, we will discuss that and determine how you can make up the work. In his case, he did about 3/4 of his work prior to going on duty at National Guard, and then he finished up a few assignments when he came back. But that needs to be worked out with me, and we need to discuss it as soon as you know there might be an issue. Sometimes students have kids during the middle of the semester. Occasionally, I don't have a lot of Lexmark Toyota students lately, but I know those places like that have mandatory training. So if anything comes up that you think might cause us to need to rearrange your due date, talk to me and we'll decide if that is appropriate or not. The last section on this page is the withdrawal policy. You may or may not know that up to the midpoint of the semester, you can just go into PeopleSoft and withdraw from the class. After the midpoint, the midterm date, you have to have my permission, and it has to be done by the last day of classes, which is the Friday before finals week. I've had cases where students have tried to do it a few hours after this deadline and have been told tough. You get whatever grade you get in the class. You're not allowed to drop. So I will give permission to drop. I consider that a personal decision. We may discuss it to verify that is the right thing for you to do. But again, it has to be done by that Friday before finals week. Very, very important. Here's some additional resources. These are links to things, some of which we've seen before. As far as tutoring, there is free on-campus and now virtual tutoring. You can go to the tutoring website to find out about that. The last several semesters, I've had an embedded tutor. If I have an embedded tutor this semester, I know they're trying to find me one. I will put their information in Blackboard and send out an announcement introducing the tutor. As far as Respondus support, you get that through the Respondus browser, while you are taking a test. So there's a button there that you can chat with somebody and work out any problems you have. As far as I know, any problems students have had with Respondus, we've worked out in that assignment that was given 3 weeks prior to the midterm. I'm not aware of anybody having to talk to Respondus support during an exam, but that is available to you. The closed campus contingency plan was created and put in place when COVID happened. Hopefully we don't have that again, but if COVID comes back or there's some other reason they have to close our campus, there is a contingency plan. They still want us to put this in the syllabus, but they've had us add class by class if this is not a traditional traditional in-person class. So since you're 100% online, any closure of campus should not have a significant impact on us. But however, if something happens and you have questions, obviously feel free to email me or catch me in Teams or schedule a Teams meeting with me. I saw this in another instructor's syllabus and liked it, so I added it to mine, and that's just a listing of reporting dates. I obviously didn't update this. I'll go back and update this in the official copy, but Thursday, August 23rd is the date I have to confirm attendance. That is, mark you as a no-show or not. That is why your deadline is August 28th. Typically during the 4th week of class, we have a Starfish progress survey. Your midterm date is Monday, October 9th. Typically the 12th week of class, we have our second Starfish survey, and then your final grades are due by noon on the day after finals, which for this semester would be December 11th. So I apologize that these are not updated here while I'm making this presentation, but I just gave you the correct dates, and I will go back and correct that in the syllabus in Blackboard. Here is our tentative schedule. I've taught this class many times, so we probably will not stray too far from this. So you can read over that. During week 8 is your midterm exam. As I mentioned, it will be proctored, and you will be given Monday through Thursday to take that exam, which will be October 2nd through October 5th, whenever you want to take it during that time frame. And then your final exam is during finals week. Again, I'm going to give you Monday through Thursday to complete that. On occasion, I will open that up a little early, maybe Saturday or Friday before finals week, so that if you have a lot of classes, you can kind of spread your exams out, or it's just more convenient, for people that have kids or work full time, to take an exam on a weekend instead of during the week. So that's the official dates, but you might expect to see the exam 2 or 3 days early. And if I do open it up early, I will obviously announce that so that you are aware. So that completes the discussion of the syllabus. If you have any questions about the class or any questions about the syllabus, please feel free to email me.